Okay, I will go ahead and make a motion to open our special meeting.
Second?
How do you vote?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Aye.
Okay, thank you very much. Does anyone have any conflicts of interest to disclose with regards to the application tonight?
I do not. I do not.
I do not.
I do not.
Me neither.
Okay, no conflicts of interest. I'll make one opening statement here. The agenda tonight is we're having a special meeting, and the primary agenda item is to discuss 41 Monroe Avenue. We have two applications for that, one for site plan, and one is a variance to allow a garage height that is higher than permitted by code. We are having a hybrid meeting tonight where it is published online. You can live stream and view the meeting, and we are also physically present at Village Hall. There is a link on the Village website to the online meeting, and anyone is welcome to click on the link, join, and we do allow comments from people attending remotely on their web browser. So we have an open public hearing. We will invite comments from the public. If you wish to comment, you will have to click on the raise hand button on your web browser, and then we will schedule you to present your comments. So that said, I think we can go ahead and jump right into our first application tonight, which is a continuation of the public hearing for 41 Monroe Avenue. Now, we have new drawings and you accommodated our request, so thank you for that. So you put the dimensions on here, you put the setback on here, you put the driveway width on here in a few spots, and you updated your drawings of the cupola so we know the height of the one you intend to build. So, and I take it there was no survey that was found, is that correct?
I did not have one at the time, no. You did find one and get it to me, but you didn't have it in time for
Okay.
meetings, but there is a survey.
Okay, well, the main thing we were looking for was setbacks, but you've got that printed on here already, so I think we're okay with that. And we know the rear yard setback is really far away, so that wasn't one of our concerns. The side yard, vicinity in the side yard was the only concern. Okay, so that updated the drawings, and did anyone have any comments on the drawings? It looks like everything was added that we requested. Okay. Steve, you were not at the last meeting, so I was wondering, as building inspector and fire marshal, if you had any comments to share. So there is code compliance. I know one of the questions from the last meeting was whether the parking lot in the back was compliant with code. And I think that was the only code question we had. So I talked to you about that offline and you thought it was, but if you want to comment on some of this, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, if you're actually looking at code, it gives the planning board the discretion on an extra parking area as long as it's behind the house. So that the 18-foot wide is for a common driver for a two-car garage, but there is discretion to the board to allow a parking area, extra wide parking area behind the proper home, which this complies with that. The plans as they stand comply with code, and other than the heights variance comply with zoning.
Okay, thank you, Steve. And I think the comments we presented from you before where you did not have any concerns over lighting or drainage.
Not at all. Drainage will be conveyed on site, the lighting will all be code compliant.
Okay, all right, thank you, Steve. And as fire marshal, did you have anything to add?
No concerns.
No concerns from the fire marshal. All right, thank you. All right, appreciated. That's, unless we have any other questions, that's very helpful that you're able to comment on that. So thank you for coming in and sharing tonight. All right, let's go ahead and welcome the applicant or their architect. If you will have any comments for us.
I do, in that we are having discussions over the cupola, and we have since learned that the height of the ridge of the house is 46 feet. So I set the cupola that's drawn there with a cap that's fairly short, just to try to stay within reason. But I think we would like to extend that if we're allowed to extend a few feet for a steeple pitch for the roof of the cupola.
Okay, so we had a draft resolution here, and if anyone wants to look at this, this is the area variance one. And the first whereas paragraph sets out, it's the only thing that changed from the last version, but it sets out what the variance is. And the variance is for height, and it's allowing the construction of the garage with a peak roof height of 28 feet and a cupola with a peak height of 34 feet, where the maximum permitted is 12 feet. So we all agree that the 12-foot requirement in code is doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But anyway, so is there a height that you would like in there for 34 feet?
I would be comfortable with 36 feet.
Any comments from people? As far as I'm concerned, as long as the HPD approves it, that's all I'm concerned about. I don't see a cupola as bothering anybody.
No.
Aesthetically, it match better with the home that way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the reason. We have a
Yeah.
steeper roof.
Right. Give enough flexibility to do what's right from an architectural standpoint.
Okay. All right, then I'll pencil that change in there. Okay, I think we had plenty of commentary from the architect last time. And let's go ahead and go right back to public comments. So we had the open public hearing, and at the last public hearing, it was noted that plans were submitted and did not have a chance for the public to comment on them because they came in too soon. So we posted updated plans on the village website, and we left the public hearing open so that the revised plans could be reviewed by the public. So with that said, we have the public hearing open. I'll go ahead and start at this time to request if anyone physically present here would like to comment, please raise your hand. Nope. Okay. And if anyone is attending online and you'd like to comment, you can click on the raise hand button, or you can type a comment in the comment field, and we will give you an opportunity to present.
There is no one online,
No one online,
just Bridget.
just Bridget. Okay. Well, that's nice and easy. And Kristen, did you receive any comments, or Steve, did you guys receive any written comments or phone calls or anything?
No communication regarding this project.
Okay. All right, then the person that attended, the neighbor that hopefully got to look at everything, and we'll assume they have no additional concerns or information since they are not attending. So I'll go ahead and make a motion then to close the public hearing for both applications.
Second?
Okay.
Member Loda?
Aye.
Member Marshall?
Aye.
Member Shannon?
Aye.
Member Hoppen?
Aye.
Chair Belisha?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay. So does any board members have any questions? I think we can just go through some of the findings.
Sure.
And I brought, I guess we got to start with the variance. We can't approve the site plan until a variance was approved. Okay, so the first finding here is whether this will create an undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood or a detriment to nearby properties. Anyone want to comment on that?
It will not.
You think it will not? Okay. I'll agree with that. Any comments from anybody?
No, but you might just add that in fact, it enhances the character.
Okay. So the architectural style is consistent with the house?
Right.
What we noted at the last meeting is two-story garages are common in this part of the village. The house across the street has a two-car garage, and I believe the house next door also has a two-car garage in the front. So there's nothing atypical with
Right.
community character about this.
It's also detached, which is a good thing.
So the detached garage behind the main structure is consistent with I think that's pretty consistent with our architectural guides and so on.
Right, especially older homes.
Sometimes we use the word secondary.
So I'm saying the detached garage behind the house is common and encouraged by our code and preservation standards. Okay. So the next item is whether the benefits sought can be achieved by some other feasible means. I would say they cannot. And as we stated, a 12-foot high garage is not
Right.
practical. I would also say that the garage height is less than the height of the primary house.
Right.
And you can't have square footage on the second floor unless you have the second floor. And 12 feet will allow that. Right, so one of the benefits is additional space, usable space. It'd have to be greater than 12 feet.
You're having fun down there.
Yeah.
Oh, no, there.
Okay, so I jotted down those comments we had here. The next one, C, is whether the required variance is substantial. But,
Yes, but that alone doesn't preclude.
yeah, I guess as a numeric thing, granting 28 to 36 feet when the max is 12.
Yeah.
But I would say substantial but proportionate
Okay,
with,
Yeah, I mean, a 12-foot garage would look so weird.
yes.
yeah, so we're going through these standards, and you do not have to comply with all 5 of them. Ultimately, what we're looking at is we have to consider all of them, and then we have to weigh whether the benefit to the applicant outweighs the, any impairment to the community or adjacent properties.
I would also say it's substantial because it has to be, because you can't have a 12-foot garage.
Flat roof like this.
It'd be like a doghouse, right?
Shed.
So we'll say it has to be compatible architecturally with the house.
Yeah.
to be functional and architecturally compatible with the house. Okay, the next consideration is whether this will have an adverse effect on the physical and environmental conditions in the neighborhood. And we could just say the same as A, is what we often say.
Yes.
So it will not have an adverse impact, and we'll just say CA for findings. And now the next one is whether the alleged difficulty is self-created, and we pretty much always say yes.
Could blame the walnut tree here. Right?
So our typical answer would be the desire for a garage is self-created, but this alone does not preclude granting an area variance. Okay, and the next one is whether the variance is or is not the minimum necessary to provide relief. And I think our comments were that to be architecturally compatible, we needed height.
Right.
And also substantially lowering, I think, would not necessarily lessen any impacts.
Right.
Is there agreement on that? Any other thoughts?
Yeah. I think you have to grant the liberty for the HPB to allow for an appropriate design of the house. I don't think we're going beyond that at all.
Okay, if we're good with that one, the next one is whether there's any physical characteristics of the property that are relevant to this request.
The height of the home, which, how tall were we again? For the
House, he said, was 48 feet.
Current house is 46, if we can
46.
go below that for the cupola.
And also the size of the lot itself. It must be one of the bigger ones.
Yeah, this is what, 1.6 acres or something like that? So it's a large garage on a large property.
Yeah, so it's proportionate to,
1.9 acres.
oh,
What was that?
It's 1.9 acres.
Okay,
That site was really one of the few places where we could place it that was relatively close to the house that didn't impinge on the root line of that massive walnut tree.
yeah.
I don't know if that matters, but that was really, we were trying to preserve the tree and not have to like pave anywhere over the roots of the tree.
yeah, so that's a good thing. So in general, as long as we're going to yield to the homeowners for where they want to place things and what their general design criteria is, as long as it's not causing problems. So the public hearing is already closed.
Can I make a comment though?
What do people think? We already closed the public hearing?
I'm not adverse.
Thoughts?
Would our attorney agree or disagree?
I think it's up to us, it's not a legal thing. Okay, all right, if you would like to make a comment, we're willing to listen to it.
37 Washington Avenue. I would like to say that the spot where the character farm is being proposed makes a lot of sense because the Hartwell Carver house was built in 1853. It's obviously a mid-19th century example and really one of our region's best examples of a Gothic revival house. Blake Howell has done an outstanding job designing a compatible design with the house. And the position, I have talked to both Carl and Carl informally about where the placement should be. And this, where they have chosen to place it is very close to what I would expect if the house had had a carriage house in the 19th century, where it would have been placed. That's what I wanted to say. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you. Okay, so we are on G here, on physical characteristics of the property. My notes were the height of the house is 46 feet, garage height is less than that, property is 1.9 acres, and a large garage is reasonable in a large property. And then we had some additional comments. I don't know if anyone wanted to add anything to it.
Maybe just the existing tree and brush line to the right behind it that separates the backside of the garage with the neighbors. That's right. Yep. Yeah, it exists and it's a useful
barrier.
That's right.
Okay, so the existing tree is being preserved in the proposed plan.
Yep.
Okay, so that's good enough for me for findings. Anyone else have anything to add?
Good.
Okay, we can add Mr. Corby's comments to the minutes, so that will be fine. So thank you very much. So with that, I'll make a motion to approve the area variance for the garage height based on the findings above.
Second.
Okay, how do you vote? Susan? Okay. Go ahead.
Is she gonna do a roll call?
Yeah,
Yeah, you want to do a roll call?
yes. Member Loda,
Still, yes.
Member Marshall,
Aye.
Member Shannon,
Aye.
Member Happen,
Aye.
Chair Felicia,
Aye.
motion passes.
Good.
Okay, and I didn't see the need for any conditions. We mentioned the height of the garage and the height of the cupola. Okay. So that was the variance.
And we were amending the front to the 36 foot.
We're amending the front to 36 feet, correct. The first whereas paragraph is going to state a cupola height of 36 feet.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Now we're up to the site plan aspect of this. And I had a prior resolution that we had for the Belton Avenue house, so I figure we can copy some of these findings. Okay, so first finding of compliance with zoning code. We heard from the building inspector, and they've applied to the area variance, and it's otherwise compatible with zoning code. Here's something in here about compatibility with LWRP. I'm not sure where this sentence came from, but we can strike this sentence here because this.
That was the Boughton one.
Oh, from the Boughton one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, so this is finding 2, but the Boughton one, it said it was maintaining a prior residential use and consistent with the Village of Pittsburgh comprehensive plan. Any thoughts? Fine enough for me.
Yep.
And it is not within the local waterfront revitalization program district, so that's irrelevant.
And we state that on the first page.
Yes, it should be on there.
Number 3.
Number 3, it's not within the waterfront area, so it's not consistent to, so it does not require a waterfront consistency review. Okay, just jotting down a note there. Adequacy and arrangement of vehicular traffic and circulation. Did anyone want to comment on that?
No change.
The driveway is mostly not changed, and that's the primary circulation, except in the back of the house. So we could say the driveway this is being unchanged in the front yard and the side yard, is that correct? It's only the rear yard.
Substantially changed, yeah, I mean, repaved.
What's the term? It's not substantially adverse.
Okay. So number 4, adequacy and arrangement of pedestrian and bicyclist is not applicable. Compatibility of proposed uses to adjacent uses. And one of our prior comments was this is a residential single-family home, as are the adjacent properties. So that sounds the same. Adequacy of off-street parking, loading, and access. So thoughts on the parking behind the house?
Well, I don't think this is applicable.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Okay. So normally we don't look at this much with residential houses and leave it up to the property owner to determine adequacy,
Right,
unless they're doing something crazy.
right.
So we'll just say not applicable?
Yep.
Okay, that's what we typically say. Adequacy of landscaping and screening provisions. I would say that's not applicable. Or we could just say they're restoring any disturbances.
Is
Consistent
there
with it.
anything there that needs to be screened?
Well, there was some concern that were brought up about maintaining the character in the back there and making that sense of privacy and keeping trees and shrubs there. And then the applicant said, well, we can plant some shrubs. And presumably you're getting together with your neighbor and had your shrubbery design party.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think he was worried about losing the screen that's already there, you know.
And that's being maintained, yes.
Yeah, we reached out to them to try and talk about this, so we haven't successfully connected with them yet, but
Yeah.
Okay, well,
they're good neighbors and we're going to take care of each other.
okay. So the character of the land, we can maybe just say the character of the landscaping is unchanged. That sounds reasonable. There might be some minor changes, but.
Or just consistent
It's
with
consistent, yeah.
Yeah, consistent with neighboring community.
You might mention that it's a large property, and the proposed carriage barn is within the scale of the property and the main house.
I think he has that in there.
Yeah, we've mentioned that before. We might get to that. Okay, thank you. Okay, the next one is signage, which we all say is not applicable.
NA.
That's for commercial properties. Outdoor lighting, so we heard from the building inspector that the lighting complies with code, including location and height. And I believe already stated on here is it will be no brighter than 75 watts equivalent for each fixture, which is the max in our code. We can approve greater, but there's no need for that, I don't think, in this case. So I think we can copy this prior finding here. Just one note for the applicant and is when putting in lighting, the one minor request we have is that you maintain like a typical incandescent color lamp, so it's like a warm white color. So those bright blue ones, no, so one of our, I don't know if we have this as a finding, but as long as you, yeah, we do typically have this as a condition of approval, that all light fixtures will use bulbs that are warm white, which is a color of 2700 to 3000 Kelvin. That's the measurement for lights. And that is the most common bulb anyway, so that shouldn't be a problem. I just wanted to mention that. We mentioned that to everybody. Okay, so the lighting complies with code. Drainage and stormwater systems. We heard from the building inspector that stormwater and drainage are adequate. Anyone else have anything to add?
No.
So water and sanitary sewer systems, that's not applicable because they're not changing. Is that correct? No changes to water lines? We don't care about the water inside your house.
No, I mean, I think we plan to have water, plan to have water plumbed to the garage. So I don't know if that would matter, but it would be the same line, I guess, as what's the house is.
Yeah, really, this is for a larger project when you need to, we've had other projects where the water required by the buildings exceeds the capacity of the municipal water system. So that's where that starts coming into play. So we'll just say this is not applicable. Is that good enough for everybody?
Yes.
Okay. Next one is waste and trash management plans. Again, we can find that not applicable.
Right.
Snow removal plans, we can say that's not applicable. You got plenty of acreage to put the snow. And whether anything about this will adversely affect health, safety, and general welfare. No? No. And the next one is the fire marshal had no concerns. Okay, so that's it for findings. And so then the resolution would be to waive the balance of application requirements. Is everyone okay with that? And then I'm going to presume that we will grant site plan approval. I guess I'll go ahead and make a motion. Well, I won't make a motion yet. Let's discuss our conditions first. So we have some standard conditions here. The first one is that the Historic Preservation Board shall approve the plans. That's condition one. Condition two is you shall get a building permit within a year. If you don't get a building permit within a year, you can come back to us. And unless things have drastically changed in the area, we're pretty much required to approve it again. So if we come back for renewal, that's the primary thing we would look at. The third condition of approval would be all lighting fixtures be code compliant and use the warm white light bulbs. And the fourth condition, I think we should discuss because there was some concern about the driveway. And future widening of the driveway was a concern from everybody. So thoughts on that?
I guess I just reference why I brought it up originally. And you may not know, in the code right now, it basically says if you have a 2-car driveway or wider, by right, you can expand the driveway width to, I believe it's 18 feet. And in that, this, as a single-family home with sufficient space in the back to turn around, one of the conditions of approval could simply be to maintain the driveway width as currently stated, plus or minus a little variance, right? But essentially not allowing yourself to give up that very wide driveway by right that's currently embedded in the code because you have a multi-car garage. And it's not because I think you guys would do it, but possibly 20 years from now or 30 years from now, if the code were to change such that that could be more of commercial use, for example, one would want to protect the nature of the driveway as it's currently visually interacts with the neighborhood and the environment.
So a question for me then, if the changes to the zoning were such that that could be used as a commercial facility, wouldn't there also be associated code requirements for pavement at the time that those code changes were made?
Could be and could not be. I mean, code's a messy thing, and we've seen a lot of messy code.
I think what we had discussed before is, I think what we had suggested maybe as a condition of approval, that if the driveway width is expanded over existing, let's say in a front yard and a side yard, that it merely comes, they have to reapply for site plan review.
I think that's fine.
Yeah. So that doesn't prohibit it, it just means it has to come back before the board, which I think is more than fair.
Yeah.
And as long as it's not causing a problem, so then the board would normally approve it. So how about, go ahead.
Cara, did you have any comments as well that you wanted to?
Oh, I mean, I have no intention of widening the driveway. I love the way that it looks, and I wouldn't want to do that. But I guess what I'm uncomfortable a little bit because it feels like there's an imposing of a limitation on one homeowner as opposed to a change in the law. So yeah, we have we don't want the code to allow 18-foot driveway, then we should change the code rather than piecemeal imposing limitations on individual homeowners, because other homeowners won't have that same limitation. Right?
That's a fair point.
Well, that's a point, but it's also, I mean, that's also why the site plan, we're looking at it and we're trying to take a look at the cumulative impacts of this. And I think everyone was pretty comfortable with this as it is. But if you had effectively a road in the front yard as opposed to a typical width driveway, I think that might change people's opinions of compatibility with community character. So I know most of the wider driveways are short. And there's, Steve, I was talking to you before about this, there is no code limitation right now preventing wide, long driveways, is that correct?
Right, and I don't believe you have a right to impose a rule stricter than what code allows.
Yeah, that's my discomfort. And actually, to be honest with you, we started off with the thing with the driveway going down the front and stuff. And we, stood across the street and looked at it, and we really liked that plan, but our concern was that you would have this strip of asphalt in front of this beautiful house that everybody would have to look at, and we just thought, no, it's too nice looking the way it is, so we didn't want that. So it's not that, it totally, on aesthetic, basis, I would never want to widen the driveway at all, but I feel like there's, a kind of an imposition of a restriction to grant permission for something we already have permission, by code to do. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, I don't know if I'm articulating
no, it's
right.
I think it's a fair point.
What thoughts?
I think it's a very appropriate point, right? And this application comes forward after a prior application with regards to a garage that was kind of a 2-car garage where they widened it. And they didn't need anything more than a lot coverage variance, right? And so it was a width by right. And whether or not appropriate or not for the neighborhood, I think you're coming to us with a site plan immediately after that application. So it's probably fresh in our mind. at least for me. The suggestion that the code change in any driveway wider than a single width driveway come before the board may be the route to go rather than trying to impose upon site plan. So I hear your point loud and clear.
And just a kind of a point, at that point, because of the way they're expanding now, the size of the driveway, they may very well have to come back if they were to want to expand, because you're only allowed 12% on the driveway of the asphalt. They were under, but not by much. So in the likelihood that they were wanting to really expand, they would have to come back for variance for the coverage, for lot coverage, if it came back.
Okay, so I think that, I mean, what was previously discussed before was, yeah, it's a long driveway, it seems okay as it is. If they made something really different, we might have some concerns. Would it have to come before us? And the thought at last meeting was, well, it wouldn't have to have any review. And there is some trepidation there, but if you say it's going to probably trigger a variance or a review, I think that lessens that concerns.
And not that, if I remember correctly, it was at 11.2%, I think, with the changes in the additional driveway, something like that.
But it may not. I mean, that site plan's not before us, so I don't want to speculate on that. I think it's more appropriate to say there's a code on the books that we shouldn't restrict out of some future concern. If we have a future concern 10, 15 years from now, or what have you, then go into the code and require a change, right? Have that code change rather than trying to do it property by property. So, and in the past, we've talked about our concerns about parking requirements, for example, for restaurants or other various things like that, that we have a code that we're trying to adjudicate, trying to be as flexible as possible, but also respect the long-term planning considerations attached to that. So I think I'm okay voiding that concern as a condition.
Okay.
Good. Yeah.
I was trying to think, the one other time we had driveway width come up was the Masonic Lodge when that came before us, whereas they put in a 12-foot wide driveway, which was pretty big. There's concerns at the time about that. Okay, well, if anyone wants to leave that off as a condition, I'm certainly not going to say anything further about that. So then we'll only have those 3 original conditions, no additional condition of approval. Okay. I will go ahead then and make a motion to approve site plans based on the findings stated and with the 3 conditions stated tonight.
Second?
Who won there? Was that Dave?
Okay, roll call. Member Loda?
Aye.
Member Marshall?
Aye.
Member Shannon?
Aye.
Member Hoppen?
Aye.
Chair Blestra?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay. All right, well, thank you. You have all the approvals you need from us. So the next step is the architectural board and then the building permit. And as stated, our only time you have to come back before us is if it takes you more than a year to get a building permit. And that could happen.
Well, I mean, it could, because we may not be able to get a contractor.
See, I'm well aware of that. Don't get me started on how long it's taken to find contractors. Okay, well, so thank you. You're all squared away, and the building inspector will continue to be your point person with the application to work you through the process.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you for having special meetings, another evening out of your lives, really.
Yes, and thank you, Kristen, for coming in as well. I know she has another engagement later on this evening, so.
Of course.
Okay. We had some draft minutes from last time, and I don't think anyone's had a chance to review them yet. Are you okay deferring that?
Yeah.
So these are the minutes here from January 4th.
Yeah.
Okay, so come on the next. Joanne, can you tell me, Justin, can I make a copy of your resolutions?
Yeah, did I have one more comment here? Hold on a second.
And the link there. And the room clear.
I wrote some, but not all.
Okay. Yeah, I try to jot down notes consistent with what we state, and you copy them, and that works pretty good. All right, are you guys doing, well, if you want to deal with the Westport Crossing stuff, I'll just leave.
Not without a lawyer present.
Yeah, I know Bridget's here, but I'd rather talk it through with her here than over.
Right.
And I also had just a couple things. This week, regrettably, has been very busy for me on multiple angles. So there was a few things that I got to a little late in the game, just not a lot, just a couple like procedural things I wanted to make sure we buttoned up in the conditions. And so I'd like to postpone that. So if it's okay, Bridget, with you, we can adjourn.
Yeah, that's fine. There's not any urgency on this. It's not, there's no forward motion that I'm aware of on this project at the moment that would require you to do it today.
Okay. I'd make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
Okay. Aye?
Aye.
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 Okay.
All right.
All right, motion carries. Thank you, Bridget.
Thank you.
Bye, Bridget.
Thanks, Kristen.
Thank you.
Good to see you.